The police, this time in great strength, were taking no chances. Round the corner, an upturned car blazed across a road. The youths who set it on fire had retreated well before the petrol tank exploded. The youths, many from outside Grimethorpe, continued sporadic stone throwing for several hours, but there was no more serious damage done. The fire brigade arrived before the flames had had a chance to spread to adjoining property, and they doused the fire in just a few seconds. For them, it's a routine job, but these are far from routine circumstances. And the firemen did not have stones or abuse hurled at them. The youths, many of whom came to Grimethorpe just for the evening to join in the trouble, have mostly gone. But some youngsters, those from the village, stay peacefully on, resenting the police presence, still angry at 22 arrests for allegedly stealing coal from a tip at the weekend. Respect for authority, property and the law is low down these people's list of priorities now.
In coal country, the picking of small coal is regarded as the traditional right by mining families. So when 2 miners were arrested on the Grimethorpe coal tip, the whole community rose up in outraged protest against the police, who are not familiar with local traditions.
So a meeting was called this morning to give the people their chance to air their grievances to the police and hopefully lessen the tension. They don't like extra police in Grimethorpe.
They've been sent here to intimidate and demoralise this community. And I say, get the bloody thugs out, let's have a community police back.
I say to the people of Britain, if you stand aside while miners are beaten to the ground by a paramilitary police force in riot gear, what they do to us today, they'll do to you tomorrow.
And once again, he made it clear that on the miners' strike, he was not prepared to back down over pit closures.
There will be no sellout in this union until the pit closure plan is withdrawn. We stay out.
I think it totally and utterly false to cast a slur on the police for the superb way in which they have handled this dispute.
The miners, their wives and children marched in their thousands. Grimethorpe has remained in the Yorkshire coalfield the most solidly behind the strike. All bar 40 of the pit's 2,000 workers were on strike for a year. And the orderly return to work, with the union branch committee leading, was a celebration of village solidarity and pride in the face of considerable financial hardship. Last year there had been considerable violence in Grimethorpe involving miners and police. This morning there wasn't a policeman in sight as the march stopped the village bus service as the miners went back to work.
As far as I'm concerned, it's always been worth it. A fight, nothing got without a fight. And we fought, as you're well aware, in '84. We've fought, my grandfather fought, we've always had to fight. And even in the future, if people want anything from such a sort of a fascist government what's at the present state, they'll have to fight.
I believe it is. I think that to keep anything that you need and anything that you believe in, it's got to be worth fighting for. If it ain't worth fighting for, don't do it. Don't do it in the first place.
It's a long time since strike now, but all I can look back on it and say is that we knew we had to. You couldn't just sit at home and observe it from in-house, you had to get out now.
Well, it probably affected me more than a lot of people in Grimethorpe, because my husband got locked up for 6 months for causing criminal damage to the local police station. It made me more aware that the judges and the media are really biased, and they were towards the miners anyway, and it's made me really wary about police. I don't think I'd go out of my way to help them.
I'd like to say I've worked here for 10 years in Grimethorpe, the last 4 of them as the community constable. I personally don't think there's been any alteration at all before the strike or after between the police and the public relations.
Well, it's not just that it were worth it, it's things that we did learn out of it, that if we were to go on strike again, that we would know what it were all about, and things that it actually educated. Like such as me, I didn't know one thing about politics. I didn't bother with politics, but during strike, and as it is now after strikes, I tend to get myself more involved with union and also on politics.
It's been better if we'd have won, but at the end of the day, if you don't fight back, you can't win. And I think now that things have got, as our own is in the worst position now that's ever been in its life. And that's the only sorry part about it, that we didn't achieve what we set out to do.
All I want to do now is to keep going to work and keep getting some money for me and my wife Margaret. I'm just trying to keep myself to myself now.
Most of women or in women's support group have gone back to being housewives and mums, or they've got jobs for themselves. But although they've gone back to them roles, they're still aware that the pit could shut, and they're still worried about the men's jobs and the futures.
Well, I started trading here in 1977, and for a few years we improved the business as money allowed, but obviously once the strike came along, that was the one that really stopped us. I would think that it took people at least 18 months to pull themselves round, and but during that time things had to go on, and we just had to plough along and help people as best we could.
I think I mistrust police now more than I used to before strike, because I saw how they behaved actually in strike.
It take a long time before police relations with people around here go back to normal or back to as they should be. It was carried on for too long. A lot of people got into really terrible debt.
It had its good sides, you know. It brought community together quite a lot. People were, helping other people. A lot more than they do now. It's only been done 5 years, but a lot of people are forgetting it now.
There's a lot of good people in this village, and a large percentage actually likes police being here. I would like to state that, as far as I'm concerned, miners' strike were something that we're all caught up in, and it's best forgotten. It's done, it's part of history.
The village nestles in a shallow valley in the eastern foothills of the Pennines, roughly halfway between Barnsley and Doncaster. On the road to nowhere, one road in and the same road out. People only come here if they really have to. Grimethorpe. Not quite the dark satanic mills the name might seem to imply. And not quite Jerusalem either, although it does have its green and pleasant land. The name stems from its Viking founder, Grim. Tired of too much rape and pillage, he dropped anchor over there in the dell and settled down to a peaceful life ashore. The Viking name for a village is Tor, thus it was Grim's Tor, which eventually came to be known as Grimethorpe. Nothing to do with the grimy, dirty state of the place. That is down to the original coal owners, now British Coal, and the rest of the polluters down there in the industrial complex. It was they who put the grime into Grimethorpe, and they're still doing it today. The pit shaft at Grimethorpe Colliery was sunk in 1894, and ever since then the village has grown from what was originally a small hamlet with a few scattered cottages and farms to the community of around 6,000 that it is today. Its heyday was after the last war, when coal was king and miners were the backbone of industrial Britain. The White City estate, built and owned by the National Coal Board. Red City, council built and owned. And in between, the old village. People moved to Grime in their hundreds to work at the pit. They came from other parts of Yorkshire, Lancashire, Scots, Irish, Welsh and Geordie folk. A proper mix and match, and the village thrived. Old King Coal is all but dead now, but with government talk of privatisation, we might yet see this nailed up on the pit head, where once there was this.
Well, privatisation, it wasn't any good before. Safety standards will not be the same, they can't be. The policy being set from government that privatisation will work. I don't think it'll work. There'll be thousands and thousands more jobs come. For a select few, well, there will be some good money for a select few, but mostly there'll be nothing. Not for Ireland anyhow.
all which leaves a question mark over the future of this community as a viable place in which to live and work.
It's not a nice place to work. Well, there again, most every industry is a nice place to work. It's something you'd accept. It's a job I know you're going to have to go into. I don't necessarily accept it's a nice place to bring up your kids, but I don't accept it's a bad place. There's far worse places. I'd sooner have them where I live. There's fields and there's woods around the area. Okay, there's a bit of filth knocking about in there, but I would much sooner have them running about these fields and woods than running around in the cities. Just concrete to play on. There's worse communities. We're fairly happy in Grimethorpe.
I like Grimethorpe. It's not the place, it's not Grimethorpe. It makes no odds where you live. It's what kind of people you've got living around you that counts, not what it looks like. I mean, you could live in poshest part of the country, have everything you want, but if you haven't got good neighbours and good friends, you've got nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd move away to a better area for my kids, because the air around here ain't good. You've got to look at all that. And I'd like for them to be in a place that gives them more opportunities for work, like down south. But I can't envisage us ever being able to move unless we went pools.
Yeah, it is a dirty job. But on that being a dirty job, it's the only job that we have round here. These other industries, but it's, like I said, take mining industry and my collieries it is. Last time anybody was employed at Grimethorpe was 6 years ago. Industries that are around here, you can't get a job because the jobs going at these industries. And not only that, I was brought up with my industry. My dad and his dad worked at colliery, and it was something that I didn't actually want to do, but it was something where all my friends went, and I wanted to work with my friends.
Well, we've always traditionally passed these jobs on to us as sons, and you've always known there's been a job for them at Pit. Now, if that coal's still there and they're still working it, and these lads are getting older, and they're getting rid of them at 50, surely the governors must have a policy where they're going to start setting lads on. But we haven't seen it yet. They've set no young lads on, they're still running streets. Big strapping lads that ought to be working down at that Pit who want jobs. We've still got them in Grimethorpe. There's some that's never had a job. And we've got industry like that in this village. It's a disgrace.
None of this group of sixth formers wanted to work at the Pit, even if there were jobs available there.
No. If I could, no. Even if they were taking on anymore, I don't think there'd be many from this place go.
All were planning to leave the area when they'd finished school, either to seek work elsewhere or to go on to higher education. These are the lucky 3% out of a total of 800 pupils who live in Grimethorpe and neighbouring villages. For the majority of these kids, the choice is limited. Most will go on the government's YTS schemes or take whatever else they can find, now that the dole and social security has been denied them. It would seem they are on the road to nowhere. Unemployment in the area hovers around 26%, and good jobs are not easy to find. So British Coal's recent announcement of the impending closure of nearby pits won't help matters much. Like Grimethorpe, all these pits have had substantial sums of money invested in them both above and below ground. Despite the year-long struggle to protect jobs and communities, the pit closure programme rolls relentlessly on, and many feel that within 10 years there won't be a pit left in the whole of South Yorkshire. As before, it is the economics of mining coal which are brought into question. Whatever the rights and wrongs of that argument, the truth is that the price of coal can be accounted for in different ways. In lives. And in communities such as Grimethorpe, who rely totally on coal for their existence.
Well, it's been a tradition of mining in this area. It's not, miners, they're born and bred to this life. It's not as it used to be, you know. I mean, all this modern technology, this is a good job now. It's reasonably paid, it's not well paid for the risk they take. But now we've found out that suddenly these jobs are disappearing. The coal's still here. There's miles and miles of coal, right away to the East Coast. But what's he going to do? It's because he's building docks and wharves to fetch it in from Congo to South Africa. That's how much he thinks about the lads that's made this country great through getting this coal. That's exactly how he's going to treat them. Now I think again, once again, it's absolutely ridiculous what's happening.
While other pits close down, it remains as no secret to some why Grimethorpe is being kept open.
At the moment now, it's a distribution colliery alone. There's pits from all this area feeding into Grimethorpe. Its only real purpose is to exploit the tipping facilities which Grimethorpe readily agreed a few years ago. In fact, they took 273 acres of good arable land for tipping space, and I fear the only reason it's staying open is because they want the tipping space, and other areas were not accepted, and it's an accepted fact in a mining community like Grimethorpe.
Pits have been opening and closing in this part of South Yorkshire for nigh on 100 years now, yet life goes on. In the late 60s, 2 pits stood here on the site of this huge bakery. From coal to cakes, from jobs for miners to jobs for miners' wives. The trend has been for more part-time employment, mainly for women. Industrial estates and redevelopment sites can be found all over the Barnsley area, except at Grimethorpe, whose industry is almost exclusively coal-based. Within the industrial complex is the revolutionary £100 million experimental power station. It generates electricity cheaply and efficiently and is a ready market for Grimethorpe coal. It's also environmentally friendly, producing no acid rain, and is basically pollution-free. But with typical two-faced Thatcherite logic, the government, through the CEGB, have withdrawn funding for it in favour of billion-pound nuclear power stations. The villagers see this as yet another kick in the teeth for Grimethorpe miners and the community as a whole. Left alone to get on with the job of cutting coal and living their lives, these folk are so traditional and conservative, with a small c, you wonder just how they managed to fight the pit closures for as long as they did. The irony is that Thatcher's so-called enemy within display all the qualities which she so admires in herself: courage, grit, determination, stubbornness and fighting spirit. They are true traditionalists who will fight to the bitter end to defend that which they believe in. And that fight to defend their way of life extends much further than their own little corner of England. But what of the future? The internationally famous Grimethorpe Colliery Band, roving ambassadors for the village and its people. Secretary Ken Hurst fears that if the pit does close and no sponsorship comes from anywhere else, then it might well revert to the small village brass band it originally was. Is the village being set on a course of decline and ruin? And if so, why don't the people move away for work and homes?
I like living in Grimethorpe because I was born here, and I met Stephen here, and he comes from Grimethorpe. All his relatives are here and his friends. It's a right friendly place, everybody knows each other, and also I don't see why we should have to move. There's a pit on his doorstep and there's plenty of work there for the men, and if we did move we would buy this house. We've bought it, but if we moved there'd be no more industries here, so nobody would want to buy our house.
Since the coal board got rid of all their housing stock and the local council has started selling its properties, the housing situation here has changed completely.
The property side is very, very quiet. Very little movement, as I say, only within the village community itself. People aren't moving into the village or out of it at all. Not for work, not for anything. Grimethorpe, as you will know, is an isolated community where there's only one road in and one road out, and people just don't travel through it to get to anywhere in particular. There are certain areas of Grimethorpe which are quite desirable, but then you have also got the typical mining community properties which were built by the British Coal in the past for tenancies of the miners working at the colliery. Parts of it are very run down. There are places in the village that are boarded up, being vandalised, and are getting even worse at this moment in time.
Every village has got their own social problems, their own vandalism problems. It's just a normal village. I've always worked in this sort of mining area, and I find it no different than anywhere else. I would suggest it's very much the same wherever you look, whether it be Grimethorpe or Shafton or Briley. It's more or less the same all over.
I don't dislike it, but I should imagine I want to get away, because that's one of the reasons I stayed on at sixth form, so I can go away to a university or a college somewhere and see other parts of the country, because I'll not stay up here when I've passed.
It's not too bad. Well, it's just not happening. Not going off. There's no to keep anybody here.
We need some new sort of jobs here, different from the pit, because it's on its way out, and we need something new.
It needs investing in, completely. Complete change. Yeah.
And a bit of cleaning up and all, because from the last couple of years it's just gone downhill.
The future? Well, if I can believe what the local president of the Miners' Union tells me, he thinks, and obviously he's in a good position to have some inside knowledge, he thinks that Grimethorpe Pit will still be mining coal long after Selby coalfield is worked out, because it's got good quality coal and they can sell it. Whether the top brass in NCB, or British Coal as it's now called, agree with him or not, I don't know, but that's his opinion. So if that happens, Grimethorpe should still be a thriving little community in 20, 30 years' time. I hope it is.
I think Pit's fairly safe, but that is from day to day. I wouldn't ever put a date on it. I wouldn't say we've got 5 year, 10 year, 15 year. I would sort of answer that question again tomorrow and you'll probably get a different answer.
I wouldn't like to think about, what would happen to the village if Pit weren't there, because there's no else around us.
Well, I'm hoping that the future is fairly bright. Obviously, we want the coal board to carry on at Grimethorpe. I shall certainly be looking forward in anticipation to 1989. I can only do what I'm doing now, which is strive to help the community and carry on what I've done before. And whenever I can help, then okay, I'm earning a living, but that's what I'm here for.
Without the colliery, I think there could be a good future for the area, because as it is remote, there are nice spots in the village overlooking open fields, woodland, even a reservoir. With the colliery still here, it's still got a future. It's just a case of getting people to come in and look at the village.
I would like to think that we have got a future, but as it's looking a little bit dim, because only thing that I can see for future is if we keep us colliery open, and that's what a strike we're all about, fighting for industry and making sure that there's job there. But future, it's looking very glim.
The signs, from what I hear from the lads, as it is now at Grimethorpe, it's good. But then I look back and think about South Kirby, Fedimore, Barnes and Main's going to shut, Readings is going to shut. So for me to start talking about future Grimethorpe, I think I'd better bite my tongue, because we're more or less keeping our fingers crossed and hoping. Because I can't imagine what it'd be like if it did close. I mean, from tradesmen alone, Thorp Village, I don't know how to carry on. There's no more jobs around here. None.
Grimethorpe would have to survive as a village if the pit did close, because we wouldn't be able to sell us houses to move to other villages, and so the women would have to go out and try and get jobs, because most of the jobs in this area are for women, and hopefully another industry would come into this area and then the men would be able to get jobs.
Another year of uncertainty begins for the people of Grimethorpe, and though they can be rightly proud of their fighting past, their future is anyone's guess.